Principle 1. Don't try to control everything. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens, taught Epictetus. This principle forms the cornerstone of Stoic mindfulness, the recognition that we cannot control external events, only our responses to them. When we focus exclusively on what lies within our power, our judgments, intentions, desires and aversions, we reclaim the present moment from anxiety about uncertain futures or regret over unchangeable pasts. Principle 2. Practicing mindful observation without judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We have the power to hold no opinion about a thing and to not let it upset our state of mind, for things have no natural power to shape our judgment." We possess the inherent ability to observe reality without immediately categorizing it through our subjective filters. By cultivating this capacity for neutral observation, we create space between stimulus and response, allowing for clearer perception and wiser action. Suspending judgment doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it means developing the discipline to see things as they truly are before our minds automatically impose meaning. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. Principle 3. Embracing impermanence as a path to presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything you see will soon alter and cease to exist. Think of how many changes you've already seen. The world is nothing but change." This simple yet profound observation invites us to recognize that transformation is not an aberration, but the very foundation of existence. By acknowledging this truth, we can release our futile attachments to permanence and open ourselves to the fullness of each moment. Consider how often we sleepwalk through experiences while mentally rehearsing future conversations or replaying past events. The quote also suggests that we live as if each day were complete in itself. This doesn't mean reckless hedonism, but rather mindful engagement with whatever the present offers. Principle 4. Cultivating gratitude for the present moment. Epictetus believed, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Gratitude naturally emerges when we recognize the fleeting nature of both pleasure and pain. Our appreciation for what exists right now is heightened when we acknowledge its temporary nature. Modern research confirms what Epictetus intuited. Gratitude practice significantly increases well-being and presence. When we pause to appreciate the good in our lives, no matter how small, we anchor ourselves in the present reality rather than yearning for what isn't. This doesn't mean ignoring life's difficulties, but rather maintaining perspective by acknowledging what's working alongside what isn't. Principle 5. Distinguishing between facts and opinions. Opinion is the main thing, the thing that justifies everything, noted Caesar. This principle illuminates the critical distinction between objective reality and our subjective interpretations of it. Most of our emotional distress comes not from facts themselves, but from the judgments we attach to them. Consider how differently two people might experience the same rainy day, one seeing ruined plans, another seeing needed nourishment for nature. The factual circumstances are identical, but their judgments create entirely different experiences. This distinction becomes particularly powerful when facing adversity. By separating verifiable facts from our interpretations, we create space between stimulus and response. We can then ask, is this really as terrible as I'm making it out to be? Principle 6. Practicing the view from above. "Lead me, Zeus, and you too, destiny, wherever you have assigned me. I shall follow without hesitation," declared Cleanthes in his hymn to Zeus. This principle introduces the Stoic practice of viewing our circumstances from a cosmic perspective, what modern philosophers call the view from above. When we mentally step back and observe our situation from an expanded viewpoint, petty concerns often dissolve into their proper insignificance. This practice doesn't diminish genuine human suffering, but rather provides perspective on our everyday frustrations and anxieties. Principle 7. Accepting reality as the foundation of mindfulness. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This profound advice reveals that genuine presence requires accepting reality, exactly as it is, not as we wish it would be. Resistance to what has already occurred creates unnecessary suffering that pulls us away from the present moment. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but rather clear-eyed engagement with things as they actually are. When we stop arguing with reality, the traffic jam that already exists, the rain that's already falling, the mistake already made, we free up enormous mental energy. We move from futile resistance to effective response. Principle 8. Training your attention to stay in the present. The end of all knowledge and pursuit is to live in agreement with nature, taught Aristo of Chios. Living according to nature means aligning our actions with reality rather than fantasy, a practice that requires sustained present-moment attention. Our untrained minds naturally drift away from what's happening now, creating unnecessary suffering through rumination or anxiety. Training attention is therefore essential for sustainable mindfulness. It involves gently but persistently returning our focus to the present whenever we notice it has wandered. Modern neuroscience backs this up. This mental return develops neural pathways that strengthen our capacity for sustained attention. Principle 9. Daily reflection as a mindfulness practice. We should every night call ourselves to an account. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passions opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired? Recommended Seneca. This evening reflection practice creates a virtuous cycle of increased mindfulness throughout our days. When we know we'll review our attention and actions each evening, we naturally become more conscious of them as they occur. This principle serves multiple purposes. It helps us recognize patterns in our thinking, creates accountability for our attention, and builds self-awareness about our automatic reactions. It doesn't require extensive time. Even 5 minutes of honest reflection can significantly increase our mindfulness. Principle 10. Premeditation of adversity for present calmness. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well, advised Epictetus. This principle introduces the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, premeditation of adversity, which ironically enhances our ability to remain present rather than anxious. By briefly contemplating potential difficulties in advance, we inoculate ourselves against the shock that often triggers emotional reactivity. This practice isn't negative thinking, but rather pragmatic preparation that allows us to respond consciously rather than react automatically. Consider how differently we experience an unexpected traffic jam versus one we've anticipated. The circumstance is identical, but our relationship to it changes dramatically. By mentally rehearsing potential challenges, we develop confidence in our ability to handle whatever arises, reducing the anxiety that pulls us away from the present. Principle 11. Detaching from outcomes while focusing on process. If I knew that it was fated for me to be sick, I would even wish for it. For the foot also, if it had intelligence, would volunteer to get muddy, stated Chrysippus. Attachment to specific outcomes pulls us away from the present moment. Our suffering often comes not from circumstances themselves, but from our desperate desire for things to be different. When we fixate on particular results, a promotion, recognition, or even a specific feeling state, we create anxiety that disconnects us from what's actually happening. This principle doesn't advocate indifference, but rather a shift in focus from outcomes we can't control to processes we can. Consider the difference between a hiker focused solely on reaching the summit versus one attentive to each step of the journey. The summit-focused hiker misses countless present moments in pursuit of a future achievement. Principle 12. Finding purpose in present actions. Even a soul submerged in sleep is hard at work and helps make something of the world, observed Heraclitus. This final principle reveals how purposeful engagement with the present moment creates meaningful existence. Heraclitus understood that every moment, even apparent rest, contributes to the unfolding cosmos when approached with mindful intention. This perspective transforms ordinary actions from mere tasks into expressions of purpose. Consider how differently we experience washing dishes when viewed as just a chore versus creating order or caring for my household. The action remains identical, but our relationship to it transforms completely. If you've found value in these Stoic principles for mindfulness, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others who might